Hello everybody, this is Miss Bashand and we are going to fill in our notes for the cell cycle. We will be doing a foldable that will go on page 44 for our notebook, and our notes will be on page 45 or whatever page your teacher says. So the cell cycle is really cool, and something you need to realize is we're going to be talking about two things. Today we're talking about the whole cycle. And next time we're going to talk about a specific part of the cycle called mitosis. So you'll be hearing those words a lot. But for right now, what you need to know is that at this very moment, your cells are dividing. Millions of them. Millions of cells in your body are dividing. It's an amazing thing. And this is part of the process. In the cell cycle. Okay? And the main three reasons that this happens is for growth. Okay, how is it that you grow? Well, your cells divide. And repair, how is it after you cut yourself that you get a scab and then your skin is all better? That's from the cell cycle. And we don't do this, but primitive life forms have asexual reproduction. This is a cool thing that little yeasts and one-celled animals can do. It's time to reproduce. Well, they just divide in half, and then there's two of them. So that's what we're learning, the cell cycle. So let's get our definition of the cell cycle here. What is the cell cycle? Well, the cell cycle is a regular sequence of growth and division. That's an and sign there, which cells undergo and it is divided into 3 stages. Okay, so this is the first part that we're going to learn. Remember, I told you there's kind of 2 parts. So we talk about these 3 stages, and then in that stage is what you remember as mitosis. Okay, but our 3 main stages are interphase, mitosis, and kinesis. Cytokinesis, sorry. So we have interphase, and we have mitosis, and we have cytokinesis. So remember those 3. I'm going to put a box so we know that this is a definition of cell cycle, and then I'm going to underline the 3 phases just so you're really clear what they are. All right, so let's talk about the first stage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line like this. I'm going to make it stand out. So we'll do this for our first stage, which is what? Interphase. Stage 1. Okay, so what is this? Interphase is the period before cell division. Very important. Without the interphase, the cell would not be ready to divide. So it's the period before cell division where the cell grows And so see how that's a G there? We call this stage G1, okay? And where it copies its DNA, remember the DNA is the instruction for the cell, so it has to copy that. That's very important. I'm not sure why they call this the S stage for synthesis of DNA. So we call that the S stage. And then it prepares to divide, but it hasn't divided yet. And that's more growth. So we call that the G2 stage. And when you do your foldable in a minute, you're going to see this is G1, this is S, and this is G2. So it's growing, it's replicating its DNA, and then it's growing some more.
Okay. It duplicates the organelles also in that C stage right here too.
Yeah.
Hey, Miss Segovia, hang
And
around.
Miss Segovia's here as well. All right. So that's interphase, okay? So tell your partner what interphase is. Go.
We're listening. I'm not hearing you talk. Come on.
Good job. All right. The second stage is called mitosis, and we're going to have a whole page of notes on this because it's so cool. All right. So this is mitosis, but right now we're just going to give you the definition. So this is the stage during which the cell's nucleus divides into two new nuclei. Remember, the nuclei is where the DNA is. So that's what's so important. Nuclei. Okay? And so one copy of DNA is distributed, which means given around equally, distributed evenly, very important, into each of the daughter cells. That's a nice little word that we used for the two little cells that came out of the one cell, and actually they become full size, but we call them daughter cells. Okay? And just for now, we're just going to write down what those four stages are. They are you ready? Prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Okay? We're going to get to know those four words a lot better as time goes on, but we'll leave that there for now. All right, and our next one is called the third stage, cytokinesis. Cyto means cell, and kinesis means to cut. So it gets ready to divide in interphase, it divides in mitosis, and then the cell completely cuts in half or pinches off to become two new daughter cells in cytokinesis. Okay, so this final stage is where the cytoplasm, remember that's the jelly-like fluid that fills the cell. So it's where the cytoplasm divides. You've got to get that squishy stuff into both cells so all the organelles can float in it. And the organelles, that, if you remember, are mitochondria and our ribosomes and endoplasmic reticulum, all of those are distributed. Again, here's our word, distributed, like if you passed out papers, into each of the two new, and again, we call them daughter cells. Okay? And then lastly, there's two parts to cytokinesis depending on if it's an animal or a plant cell. So I'm going to draw a little line here to show the difference, okay? Because cytokinesis looks differently depending on what it is. So in the animal cell, and here we're going to do the plant cell. In the animal cell, you start out, remember animals do not have cell wall, so I'm going to draw it round. And what happens is the membrane just kind of pinches off. And it just pinches and pinches until you have two new daughter cells. So I'm just going to say cell membrane pinches. I'm just going to say that. And you can remember that because they don't have a cell wall, so it's really fluid, and they can do that. Okay? Plants, not so easy because they've got this cellulose cell wall that makes it stiff, right? So what happens to the plant? Well, it's getting ready to divide. This is really cool. What happens is it grows a new cell wall right down the middle, and then eventually those two become new plant cells. So for plant cells, we have a cell wall forms across the middle. Okay? So if I was you, I would go back and I would just kind of maybe make each one a different color so you can remember. There are three stages. Three stages. Not to be confused with the fact that there's going to be 4 phases when we get to mitosis. And those are your notes on the cell cycle. The 3 main stages are interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. And there you go.